So,
Skype is turned off. Okay, this is
and
turned
I'm
on.
gonna turn off this.
Okay, let's make sure. Okay. This group. Okay. Hey, Joe. Hey, sure. Hey. I'm sure there shouldn't be any problems. Hopefully, things will go well. Just grab a reference so we can save a little bit of time. So we did this one yesterday, so let's try a different one today. So we'll use this. We'll draw this later. Okay, cool. Okay, so I guess we start in like one minute. Right, so looks like everything's running. Back. Screen. Put over here. All right, okay. My pen and marker is working. Okay, is everyone in now? We're good to go? All right, so we'll start. Welcome to Figure Drawing Bootcamp. My name is Brian Lee. What's it called? I've been, I don't know what I am right anymore, like in terms of my title. I guess I'm just an artist. I've kind of been all over the place. I first went to Art Center like long time ago. And I always joke, I went to Art Center when it was still affordable, where, you know, like a term wasn't like buying a car. Basically, I think you're buying a Toyota Camry every term. So if you graduate Art Center right now, I think you bought yourself 8 Toyota Camrys. That's how I kind of calculated it. I went to Art Center originally so I could do poster art, like movie poster type stuff. But later on, I found out that industry was it's kind of dying. And a lot of instructors recommended that I try video. I work in video games because that was like the thing that was booming. It was like when PS2 and PS3, there was like just next gen was just coming in. So I got lucky, graduated, worked in video games for several years, and then I got a little bit burnt out. And then I had an opportunity to work in some movies. And I usually apologize because the first movie I worked on was horrible. It was called I'm happy if you guys don't know it. You don't know it, but it's called Battleship. So that was like the first movie I worked on. Huh? Is it great? Really? I don't know. Like when I first heard it, when we first started working on it, they told us that even the actors don't know that that there's aliens in it. And when I first heard the title Battleship, I was like, you mean like the board game Battleship? And I don't know. But anyway, they said the actors don't know it, but there's aliens. And I said, but it's Battleship. Like, whatever. It's an okay movie. All right. Well, I'll take it. But yeah, from there, I got to work on a bunch of movies. I don't know if they ever got made or not, or because I just, like I said, I mean, like I said, I just hung out, because, but yeah, but to me it was more of the same stuff, and then I was getting a little bit burnt out, and I was very lucky because at the time, instructors were telling me maybe you should do what you wanted to do, and maybe do some movie poster art or start going into illustration. So I started doing that. I got an opportunity to start teaching, like officially teaching. Before I was just more like tutoring. Even when I was at Art Center, I was running the Friday workshops, and I was a TA for a bunch of instructors like Danny Gagliotti. It's a really awesome Disney animator. And then from there, I don't know. I just kind of it's just been crazy. I've been able to work in comic books, storyboarding. I still freelance for video games. I freelance for movies. More recently, I'm part of IDW now. So I'm on the Transformers franchise. I do their covers, and I've been really hoping. I've been kind of asking, if they could give me Ninja Turtles because I really like Ninja Turtles. I met Kevin Eastman at Comic-Con. I mean, it was like my first Comic-Con. It was amazing. It was just like I was fanboying everywhere, and it was even more awesome because all the artists I admired, they knew who I was. But anyway, I owe being able to work in all these different areas basically due to just having strong foundations, and I owe a lot of that stuff to the foundation knowledge. I owe a lot to figure drawing because figure drawing taught me how to design. It taught me, basically everything. And even when I was at Art Center, one of the things that I learned is that we never really draw anything other than the figure until, I don't know, I feel like 5th or 6th term. And then we start taking classes like dynamic sketching with Norm Sherman. He's passed away, and I think Peter Hahn has taken over teaching that class. And for a lot of illustrators, when we start to learn how to draw like cars and all these other things, it's basically just it's just like figure drawing, except it's a little bit more forgiving because if you draw an Abrams tank, no one really knows what an Abrams tank looks like. As long as we draw something that looks like a tank and we say it's an Abrams tank, people buy it. But if you draw a picture of someone's face, let's say you're drawing LeBron James or something, and it's just slightly off, people know right away. So figures or characters are a little bit less forgiving. But anyway, so this class is mainly about helping you bolster your foundation knowledge, and it's like I said, it's kind of a boot camp. So I'll be hitting you with a lot of information. So hopefully, you can all keep up. Also, there's another thing. I usually say, does that make sense? A lot. So if someone can say yes or no, if not, it gets awkward. All right. Awesome. Thank you. So anyway, we have a lot to cover, so let's jump into the lecture. And feel free to ask questions anytime. I'll be looking through the chat, and thank you, Joe. I'm sure you'll tell me as well. All right. So here we go. So when we draw there, in order for us to keep improving, there are 3 phases to drawing. I've been calling it OCD, so you can remember. There's an observational phase. That's the phase where we kind of look at something. And then the comprehension phase, where it's, do we understand what it is we're looking at? And then finally, we get to the demonstration phase, which is us making the mark on the paper or whatever medium we're working with. We're just drawing. And usually I kind of classify 2 situations where we don't improve. So situation 1 is fairly common. Situation 1 I get a lot, especially in China, where I'll have students say, I've been drawing figure for like 5 years or however many, for a long period of time, but then they tell me that they can't draw it out of their head. This basically means we don't know how to draw a figure. And the reason this happens is because the observational phase, that's working, that's going on fine. They're looking, that's fine. But we're actually just skipping the comprehension phase where we take time to kind of figure out what it is we're looking at. And then we go straight to demonstrating, which straight to drawing. This means we're copying. So there's really no growth there. Once the subject is gone, we don't know how to draw. Does that make sense? Awesome. When we're in a traditional classroom, it's cool because my instructors taught me how to watch for students who are doing this. Basically, they call it either bobblehead syndrome or whack-a-mole syndrome. Where basically we walk around the class or we're sitting at our desk and we're looking, and students will be behind their drawing board, like we can see it up to here, so they go underneath the drawing board and their head just pops up and it goes down like this. So it's like, a bobblehead or looks like a whack-a-mole, and then so we got to go tell them, hey, stop copying, So this is situation one. The second situation is not as bad, but it's when we hit a plateau. And it happens a lot to professionals, specifically like storyboard artists and like a lot of comic book artists. And it's understandable. The reason is because comic book artists and storyboard artists, they need to draw really fast. They don't have a lot of time. So a lot of the stuff they know is they know a lot of shorthands. Like especially for a storyboard artist, one drawing doesn't mean anything. They need to show their art director or their client, they need to show them a series of drawings because that's how they do their storytelling. So what ends up happening is that we start hitting a plateau. The reason why they're hitting a plateau is because the comprehension stage is there. They understand what it is they're looking at, but the observation stage is gone. They just kind of glance at something and they refer to whatever they know. And they go straight to drawing, which means they're just drawing out of their head. This is just okay. So there's no new information going in. And the first one is the worst. No. It's like meh. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. So in order for us to continually improve, all three of these have to be working together. And Mark, my instructor, Mark Westermel, if you guys are familiar with the Riley method, he's like one of the OG Riley method guys. He passed away 2 years ago, unfortunately. But he would say, I think we need to be like a carpenter where we measure twice and we cut once. So when we observe, maybe we observe 3 times. We actually look at what it is, we carefully look at it. Then we think about it, comprehend the comprehension phase. We think about it maybe twice, and then we only mark once. We get on So, oops. Are you familiar with, or have you seen drawings like this or I'm guilty of drawing like this in the beginning where it's just like scribbles like this? This never made any sense to me to draw like this. Are you guys aware of styles like, or someone who draws, do you draw like this? Yeah, not a big fan of this because one of the reasons why is, one, it doesn't teach us any motor skills. Like, what do these lines mean? Yeah, it's incomprehensible. Second, like I said, you don't learn motor skills. We don't learn economy of line. And this is the one thing that never made sense to me when I would have an instructor draw like this. When we're drawing from a figure, we're looking at something. Like the artists that kind of draw more loose like this, there is a difference between drawing loose and drawing sloppy. And a lot of instructors would say, the good instructors, I'm sorry to say, like Mark would say, draw loose, not sloppy. Loose is drawing in a way that, like, if you want to know if your drawing is loose or sloppy, basically a good way to kind of gauge that is if you had to pass your drawing on to another artist, can they finish it? Or is the information you put in the drawing, you know, understandable? Can another, at least to another artist, can they figure it out? If you pass along your information and it's just chicken scratch like this, basically they have to start over. So it's the same as giving them, we gave them nothing. It's just like, here, you figure it out. That's basically what we did. So going back to looking at a model, we have something we're looking at. Why do we draw like this? That's something that never made sense to me, because we have something to reference. There are artists who do draw out of their head and they draw a little bit loose, but there's a huge difference, because basically when an artist cannot finish their drawing, when they look at their sketch, it probably comes down to lack of understanding, or the artist was sloppy. Does that make sense? Always remember, more lines does not equate a better drawing or a clear drawing. And as artists, we are communicators. We communicate through our drawings. You know, we don't have this luxury anymore. Like when we were kids, we do this. Right? And then usually, I see this a lot with little kids. It's very cute. And they put in arrow and they write like, "Mommy, we can't do this." Like when we get a job and we're handing off our thumbnails to a client or something, we don't have this luxury. We can't just say, "Hey, this is a badass, this is Laura Croft" or something. We can't do that. It has to look like her. So the more we can be efficient with our lines and the better we can communicate, the better. So drawing like this, I think it's mostly just a waste of time, and it's a great way to learn bad habits. So going on to the next section. I thought I grouped these. Okay. So there are 3 steps to drawing. The first step is the lay-in, and it's mostly 2D. And the lay-in is basically a blueprint of the drawing. If it's not working at this stage, it's best not to move on. Because when the lay-in falls apart, our second stage, which is form, which is the 3-dimensional aspect, that falls apart, or it's not there. And then we don't understand form, then we can't light something if we don't understand the form. And 4 is color. I know I said 3 steps. 4 I usually just put within lighting, but we don't understand the lighting. How can we color it? Does that make sense? It's just say 3 steps to drawing now. Okay. All right. So within the lay-in, there are 3 subcategories. There's gesture, shape, and proportion. Still 3 stages. Okay, so it didn't switch yet on the. Let me see what's going on here. Does it say lay-in on the top? Okay, cool. It was just a lag. Okay. So within the lay-in, we have gesture, shape, and proportion. I've heard GPS. I don't like that one because I'm ordering it in order of importance, and so I remember GSP. If you guys know Georges St. Pierre, the martial artist. That's how I remember it. Any MMA fans here? Not just shaking hands. Damn it. Okay. It's all right. Well, George St. Pierre, awesome. If you can watch him fight, I mean, he's like and I like him the most because he's a well-rounded fighter. So I don't know. It's just kind of another reason why GSP works better than GPS. I don't know. But anyway, gesture is kind of a loaded word. So before we begin, let's clarify what it is, or at least when I'm talking about it. So can we get 4 definitions of gesture? It's not a trick question or anything. Movement through line. Okay, let's say movement. Flow. Line of action. Energy of pose. Okay. Movement. Nice. We got them fast. Flow. Line of action. And I read a good one here. Oh, jeez. Sorry. Line of action, and what was the other one? It was like, was it energy of pose? Let me go back to the chat. Was it energy of the pose? I think that was it. Pose. All right. You see kind of the problem here already? Like, we have 4 definitions of gesture, and the thing is, they're not wrong. They're all technically correct. But the problem is this. If you guys showed me your homework, or you showed another instructor your homework, or let's say you're at work and your art director comes up to you and looks at your figure and says, hey, the energy of your pose is not working. Do you know what they're talking about? Nice. We have the gesture. I like that one. It goes back to, but yeah, right. It's not specific enough. I mean, while all of these are correct, they're all a little bit ambiguous. They share something that they have in common is they're all dealing with connections and relationships. Relationships. And most of the time, I won't say anything. Like, I probably won't say anything that ambiguous. The definition of gesture I used for my instructor Dallas, it was funny because he sat down with me. He's like, all right, so what does gesture mean? And then I said, oh yes, it's the spirit of the pose. It sounds really good. And then he said, yeah, that's right, but you see this drawing? If I said the spirit of the pose is wrong, can you fix it? I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's not specific enough. If I ever mention your gesture, it'll be more specific. I'll say something like, the gesture of your head and neck are not working. It means the relationship of your head and neck are not working. It means your head is not connected to the neck. Does that make sense? All right. So let's have a practical example of gesture. Yesterday we did popcorn, so today we'll use pearls. So if I had a handful of pearls and I just threw it on a table, I don't know why I would do this, but let's say I did that. Kind of an asshole move, but what would happen to all the pearls? Yeah, pearls. Yeah, they'd scatter. They just go everywhere. So there is no gesture. We just get chaos. However, if I take those pearls and I put them, I link them with a string, and let's say I create an arc like this. The string is what's connecting them. The arc is the relationship being formed by all the pearls together. That's the gesture. That's how they're connected. Does that make sense? Okay, so how do we use this when we're drawing, let's say, a figure? So let's draw actually, let's draw a leg again. So when we first draw a leg, let's say we're drawing like a muscular leg, we'll draw all these bumps. We'll draw, like, okay, well, I see this bump here, right? This bump here, maybe there's this bump here. It's maybe straight there, and then a little bit bump here, bump here, bump here, bump here. There's the toe, and then there's the feet. This has no gesture. And when we do this, we end up with something called noodle form. Yes, it's perfection. This is called noodle. Yeah, there's no... So this is bad. No. So rather than looking for all these bumps, we're going to look for, basically, we're going to be looking for that string. And in this case, we'll be looking for the average width. No, I'm just drawing it out of my head. So this is what we're looking for in the very beginning. And then we can go in and we can now add our lumps and bumps. So we'll usually have a bump here, it's higher. Or we're drawing a muscular leg, you have a bump over here. Bump here. Bump here. Bump here. So all of our bumps have this gesture in common. And even just as a simple shape, it feels more structural. It has some kind of form. Everything has, well, there's order, basically. Does that make sense? And one simple trick, like I said, one of the problems is if we don't have a good lay-in, we don't get good form. And then if we don't have good form, then how do we light it? So this is just a quick trick to form drawing. The way I'll be teaching you guys how to draw the figure is, there's a lot of figure drawing classes where they have you learn how to draw skull, learn how to draw rib cage, learn how to draw pelvis, and then you work inside out, which in theory, it should work. But in practice, it's not very practical. It's very hard. It's much easier to draw a shape and put everything inside than it is for us to build everything inside out. And it makes it very hard to get likeness. Also, if you want to learn how to paint, thinking inside out the whole way, it just makes painting even harder, because painting deals with shape. Like if you have a good shape, you can go back in and you can carve into it. Does that make sense? So we have a complete shape here. So a very easy way to create form is whatever you drew, right, on the outside, you want to create some form, just draw it again on the inside. It's a very simple trick. And when we go over form, I'll tell you what this idea is called. So I'll just draw this again on the inside. I immediately have some depth. And let's say I want to hide the fact that I just drew whatever it is. I just drew the silhouette again on the inside. I'll just take the value meaning this tone here, and I'll just bleed it out. So it's like, okay, well, this comes out over here. And here's a kneecap. And there's overlap, so there's like the fat. By the way, this is nothing new. Artists have been doing this for ages. Once we learn how to see this pattern, we'll see it everywhere. Anatomy is important to learn, but it's not everything. It's not the most important thing on the list, by the way. Like if we get good at just laying and we get good at form ideas, we should be able to draw a believable figure. The most important thing when it comes to drawing will always lie in your lay-in, just your shape and proportion. And this is an idea that's not just for the figure, it's universal. You want to design an environment, we don't paint one tree at a time, right? We can't just be like, there's one tree. We group everything, all the trees into a shape. And then, well, whatever's in the background, we'll look at the big overall picture of everything. Once the big overall shape of everything, picture, whatever, graphic design, whatever it is, that's working, then we can start getting into form. Same thing, if we design a character, we design the whole overall look of the character. We don't just go, all right, well, here's the eyes and he has a scar. It's not how it works. Or you can, but you're just making things really hard for yourself. So like a lot of the practices I do, whether it be I'm drawing more realistic, like something like this. Sorry, there's a lot of demos. These are demos on how to treat edges. Something realistic like this, or whether I'm drawing this is for work. This was for, what's that game called? Anybody play 13 Sentinels? It's okay, I've never played it either. I've never heard of it. I just did it for, I basically watched the gameplay when I was doing the job. I got hired to do some promotional art. So rather than trying to focus on how to render everything, I can do that later, which is like this. This was a fun project to work on because they originally wanted. This is bad of me because the pay is the same, but. And the pay was pretty good, but the pay will stay the same. And they originally just wanted 4, and then I started drawing the characters, and I got a little bit carried away, and I just kind of drew all 13 of them. So it's like, all right, we'll do all 13 then. It's like, all right, fine, whatever. But yeah, once I work out their overall shapes, it's very easy to just, just render them. So whether I'm working on something like this, I'm always thinking about the big overall, and usually that's not rendering. Like when let me show you some figures. Like here's a cover for Grimlock. King Grimlock. So this is the cover for King Grimlock for IDW. So it starts off, yes, Transformers. It starts off, it didn't start out like this. When I first send the comp, because in the beginning, we don't really know, like, they'll give me an idea of what they want. And then I'll do a bunch of sketches or little comps, and I don't want to spend a lot of time rendering. I just want to make sure that they can see the big overall picture. So I'll send something like this. It's not rendered. They just need to get the big overall idea of what's going to happen. And at this point, I don't really know how to draw Grimlock that well. So that's another thing. So I'm just kind of still figuring out his shapes. So before I do the final, I'll do some studies so I can figure out how to draw Grimlock. But yeah, so I'll send them big overall sketches like this. And even like when I'm showing you guys, when we draw a figure, let's say you're doing a more stylized figure. So these are action pose figures. Notice I don't spend a lot of time drawing features. I just look at the overall shapes. It's half and half. So I basically like messing around with shapes. And then, you know, when I sketch from life, this is Barry. Or if I'm sketching from, you know, like watching TV or something, those are very fun to do. Need some plates. So, you know, I was watching the strongman competition, so notice I don't really draw that many features in the beginning. I just draw big overall shapes. I keep things as simple as possible. The rendering is for later. Sometimes I screen freeze. Sometimes I just basically I write notes. It's something we're gonna talk about today. I'm gonna teach you guys a ruler. But anyway, so back to this. So that's gesture. Oh, by the way, let me know when you guys need a break. I just tend to keep going. We have 12 weeks, and there's a lot of information, so I just want to give you as much as I can. So if you guys need a break, just let me know. All right. So anyway, so this is gesture. Now the second part is shape. Shape is in the process this is what gives us likeness. And we achieve likeness by something called shape design. Shape design is basically taking our primaries and putting them together so that it best represents whatever it is we're trying to communicate. So we have our square, our triangle, and our circle. So for example, if I take half a circle and I take a square and I squash it, make it into a rectangle. And then I take a triangle and I post it on, you know, put that on top. And do ice cream, right? If I take the same image and I just flip it, oops, and I flip it over, yeah, it's a gnome or an elf. You just give them some eyes. And, you know, maybe you give them, you know, that little poof ball thing on the top. Then you get a gnome. Does that make sense? Also, this seems very simple, what I'm going to show you next, but it's actually true. There's really nothing, no trick. So if you guys watch a cartoon, more specifically anime, I'll draw 3 heads right now. I can fit one here. A, B, C. So who's A? I figure out before. Yeah, Goku, right? Yeah, it's Goku. By the way, that I'll explain anime styles. B, who's B? Yeah, it's Vegeta. There's no features. And then C, kind of, it could be a lot of people, but let's do this. Who C? Yeah, Tien, right? Yeah, it could be Krillin too if he just, and Frieza. That's what I mean. It could be anything. So this is what I mean by likeness is captured not by features, it's captured by shape. Part of it is a survival instinct for us as well. Like we don't look at specific features. We usually look at the whole thing, like a big shape. If a shape is looks dangerous, we tend to stay away. One of the theories I was reading about a long time ago in school was they're saying, why is Mickey Mouse more successful than Felix the Cat? Because Mickey Mouse, his silhouette is very round. Like everything's round. You want to go and hug him. But Felix the Cat has knives on the end, like as a silhouette. So to a kid, they're saying that Mickey Mouse, is a lot more appealing than Felix the Cat. Does that make sense? Yeah. So by the way, let me explain why anime, it's very smart, because if you look at a lot of anime for the most part is limited animation. Means they're made for TV, so they do, unless they're making a movie, they don't get like high quality. That's why a lot of times when you see anime characters talk, their mouth don't match, and it's like the same drawing. They just change the mouth shape and then they talk. So a quick way for anime artists to get several different characters, if you notice, they all have similar faces, is just change the silhouette. Does that make sense? They get that all the time with all the anime, or most anime. And it's funny because a buddy of mine, he's a comic book artist from like way back in the day. He actually got to go to Japan when they were having an exchange, of just ideas. And he said he didn't know if they were being insulted or if they were being complimented. And it makes sense because if you look at Japanese manga, they're very thick. And if you look at American comic books, they're very thin. It's like 30 pages or something, and all beautifully colored, whatever. And then the manga artists there, when they asked him like, what do Japanese think about American comic book art, they kind of huddled, and then they had a discussion, and then they said, okay, well, this is what we think. And they basically said that American comic book art belongs in like a gallery. It should be framed. And then they said, but it's not like a comic, like how a comic works. And it makes sense, at least to them, because Japanese manga is more about storytelling than it is about just strictly the drawing. That's why a lot of their characters are simply drawn. Does that make sense? So there's a difference. There's a difference in philosophy when they. I mean, right now I think it's like a free for all because there's been a lot of cultural exchange between the two countries, and there's so many different styles being mashed up. But that's like originally the case. So if you see a lot of anime, you'll notice that even if you compare Japanese animation to American animation, like Disney's animation, their characters are designed to move. So it's very rare that they have a lot of angles. They're designed with a lot of curves, so they everything can flow together. Like even their hair doesn't have like shapes like this. Their hair is usually very fluid or have very organic shapes like this, so that it's very easy. So it's just a difference in aesthetics and difference in philosophy. Does that make sense? Cool. And this idea, by the way, of just likeness, this is how we get different kinds of people. And we'll explain that in the next section, which is proportion. Proportion, unfortunately, is the most boring part, at least to me. It's getting more interesting now because I'm messing with it, but at least in the beginning when we're drawing figures, it's the most boring part. And even when you draw cars or anything, proportion is the most boring part, because in figure drawing, what proportion guarantees is it doesn't guarantee that your drawing will be good. It just guarantees that whatever you draw will look human. And proportion needs to get to a level where it's like answering this math question. It's not a trick question, guys, just so you know. What's the answer? Yeah. There's no guess. It's not a trick question. Like, my question to you is this: did that take you a lot of time to think about? Like, did you have to like rack your brain? Like, is it 4? Or did you just go 4? Yeah, straight away. It has to be like this. I mean, that's what proportion is. Just memorize it. Which brings us to Eric. And I'll tell you why I named him Eric. By the way, when I do this in the Chinese school, they always get laughs. Like, it's like, oh yeah, you can answer a much harder question. You can ask like 100 times 100 or 100 times 18 times 30 or something. It's like, that's not the point. That's enough. Yeah. Well, like the point is, yeah, it's like 13 times 15 still requires a little bit. Well, at least for me, I have to sit down and go, and I have to do that, right? But 2 times 2 is like 4. There's no thought. So it has to be like this. So that's the point. And for the majority of the class, we will be focusing on the lay-in. I will go over form ideas, but the idea is that if this part's not working, even in the homework, as we progress, I'll point it out. We don't move on to form unless this is working. I'd rather you get a good lay-in than start messing around with form and just be like confused all the time. That make sense? Cool. So Eric is basically our ruler, like a generic figure, right? Generic. That's why it's Eric, because he's generic. And I got that from Danny Gagliotti. He told me that if you watch the Disney movie, The Little Mermaid, the prince is named Eric because he's such a generic prince. So I started calling before this, I would call him the mental mannequin. I just named him Eric. By the way, when I teach muscle names, I know the real muscle names, which to me is a little bit useless unless until I studied a little bit of Latin. Then I found out, they literally, like if you just call the muscle what it is, like just without the Latin, it sounds really weird. Like there's one on your face right here. It's called something labii, something. It's got a long Latin name, whatever. But it basically means raiser of your upper lip, and that's what that muscle does. So to help some of my students memorize some of the smaller muscle names like in the forearm, I made up my own. And they never forget it. Like you will. Okay, once I'll go over it when we draw the when we start talking about the arm, but you will never forget it once I tell you. It's the fuck you muscle. Because we have it's in your forearm. That's what it does. It helps you to extend your middle finger. Once I say it, it's like, well, they remember that. I know. Or yeah, you can call this the right here, the trapezius, right? This is, or you can just call I don't know muscle because this is what it's for. It's like it doesn't matter. I mean, one of the things I learned very quickly at Art Center was I'm sure you guys know Kevin Chen. Kevin doesn't really know or he knows the names, or sometimes they're just flat out not right, like what he calls it. But he knows where they are and what they do, and that's more important than just knowing the name. If knowing the name helps you to get there, that's fine. But sometimes just having dumb little easy things like, oh yeah, I think it's a little bit racist, but he calls this muscle here, or we're just joking around about it. There's a muscle underneath in your armpit. It's called the coracobrachialis. He says crack muscle or something because somehow I made the connection to Dave Chappelle. We were just joking about it, and then he's like, "Yeah, so the Dave Chappelle muscle." It's like, yeah, you won't forget. That's the point. I think that's more important. You know where the muscle is, what they do, whatever nomenclature you use or whatever you use to remember it. That's what you do. I mean, we're not doctors here. If you're talking to a doctor, they'll correct you. But other than that, it's just like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. So unfortunately, I just said I hate math, but then a lot of the stuff I'll be talking about will be using math language, so I'm sorry. So first, we're going to start with a circle, and please take time drawing a circle. These are not circles. If we start with a circle like this, we're already starting wrong, so just kind of take your time and draw a decent circle. Okay, let me just duplicate that layer because we are going to be using the circle to draw a side view of the head and a 3/4. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is draw a circle. We're going to find the center. And we're going to find the radius. To find the bottom of the chin, we drop 1 radius down. The reason why we learn Eric is just so that, once again, we have a ruler. The more comfortable we get with drawing this, or we're able to draw this out of our head, what will happen is when you start looking at people, you'll immediately start comparing because now you have like an actual ruler, something to compare to. Does that make sense? When I draw models at Art Center, there's lots of models I can kind of draw out of my head because like one of the things that I would do every now and then is if I'm having trouble drawing the actual model, and if likeness was something I was working on, rather than spend maybe like 1 or 2 sets drawing the actual model like in their pose, what I would do is I would make a turnaround sheet for the model. So I would draw Eric, and then I would just kind of figure out how they're different from Eric and figure out their shapes. And that's what helped me to memorize what was different. So I think this is a little bit long. And it looks about right. Okay. So what we're going to do is from the bottom of the circle to the bottom of the chin, we're going to cut that in half. Here. And that's where the jaws will start to angle in. And nothing on the figure is like 90 degrees. We have a growth pattern. Like our face grows out of our skull, so everything tapers, our arms, our legs. Something just still tells me it feels a little bit long. It is a little bit long. Shrink it a little bit over here. So we're going to take the next measurement is going to take from the top of the head to the bottom of the chin. And we're going to cut that in half. Over here. Too low. This will give us our eye line. And also, it'll give us the start of our ears. To draw the ears, we're just going to draw an ovoid and slice it off at the side. The reason why I like to rely on the half and the eye line is solely because it's the most reliable. I know there's books that use 1/3. And one of the things I found out with using the 1/3 to find the brow bone is people have varying heights in their brow bone. And I found out through looking at listening to some forensic podcasts and stuff like that, where when they're trying to compare somebody, you know, like one of the ways they try to figure out, hey, is this person the same person? When they're just looking at photographs, is they'll look for a picture of that person in the same kind of view. And their reference point has always been the eye line. And one of the things I did, just because, you know, I don't know, I felt like doing this, was I started just looking at my friends and then, you know, and then just kind of gauging where the top of their head was and the bottom of their chin. And roughly, the eye line is always roughly about a half on generally most of the time. So this is a more reliable measurement. That's why I use the half. Also, it's easier to eyeball than 1/3. Does that make sense? Oh, no problem. Yeah, I'm always looking for averages as much as I can. If I take from the eye line to the top of the head and I break that into thirds, the top third gives us the mask shape. This is where our face connects to our skull. Let me turn on the light here because I have to grab a head in a second. And one thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to extend this. Give us the front plane of the face. And this next rhythm that we're going to draw, or this next line, and I'll draw a skull on the right side so I can show you how that, you know, what all these lines represent. I try to be as efficient as I can with all my lines. So from inside the ear, there's a nice rhythm that comes down. This is something has its origins in the Riley method. When we draw like a 3/4 view or some other views, it makes things a little bit easier when figuring out the shape of the face. So I drop this line over, and this will give us our cheekbone. Does that make sense? This is like the front plane of our face. So the next thing we're going to be drawing, sorry, it's just got a magnet on it. I have like random body part stuff lying around. Like, it's weird when showing students this, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, so when you draw a knee, it's like your knee bends like this. So it's like, yeah. So anyway, so the next line we're going to be drawing is called a temporal ridge. It's this line right here, or it's the side plane of your skull. And there's a nice rhythm that rolls down into the side of your jaw. And what this line represents is the side plane of the head, and also represents the masseter muscle here. The masseter muscle is this muscle here. It's the muscle that we use to chew. And if you put your finger on the side of your head right now, on your, your temples, and then you bite down, you'll feel this flex. It's because part of the masseter muscle is connected right around here. So when you bite down, this flexes as well. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to finish off our face. We're going to create a mask to actually connect our face, our skull. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So I said I would draw it on the right side. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly draw the skull on the right, so I can explain, so you can better see what all of these lines represent. These lines are not wasted. By the way, the stuff I'm showing you right now is kind of, in a way, construction. The better you get, or the more comfortable we get with drawing, we won't draw them. Construction is for you only. Always remember that. So you only construct as much as you need. You don't construct, well, we generally don't construct for the sake of constructing. We want to keep our drawings as clean as possible. Otherwise, it starts looking like, like a 3-point city that we're drawing, and there's perspective lines everywhere, and then eventually we don't even know which lines are what. It's a good idea to keep our drawings clean. So here is our eye socket. At this point here, it angles down. Use a thinner brush. It's getting a little bit too thick. Here's our temporal ridge, side of the socket. Here's our zygomat, our cheekbone. We have a muzzle underneath. That's why when we bite into a piece of bread, it doesn't look like this. It looks more like this. It's round. Or, I say we're like teddy bears. We have this kind of muzzle shape. There's a nice rhythm that starts from the front. Don't worry about if you don't remember all this, just take notes. And this is underneath. You're going to have to imagine the inside of the skull without the jawbones. and the cheekbone. The cheekbone will sit on top. We have our keystone. We have our eye socket sit on top of that. So this is underneath. We have our zygomatic arch, or our cheek, and with our cheekbone. This will cut in. This is the opening of our mouth or teeth. We have our nasal bone sitting on top of all of this. Then we have our jawbone. Don't worry about all this right now. I'm just drawing all this so I can show you that we're not wasting any of the lines that we draw. We have our skull. Skull will tuck underneath in the back, roughly lines up with the bottom of your nose. There's a little knob back here. If you feel behind your ear, you'll feel a little knob. That's where this muscle comes down, called the sternocleidomastoideus. It's the muscle that allows you to do this. And then we have our frontal lobe. This is the hardest part of our head. And here's our brow bone. And there's a little thing here called the glabella. Anyway, I know it's a lot to remember. You don't need to just make a note of this right now. So the left side is what we're going to be focusing on. I have an Eric skeleton. Sure, no problem. There you go. Okay, so the next measurement we're going to get into is the pit of the neck. To get to the pit of the neck, we're going to drop one circle down using my fingers. Oops. There's the pit of the neck. And when we draw the neck, we want to make sure that we flow the neck out of that circle or of our skull. The reason we want to do that is because, well, the neck is connected to our skull. Also, when we draw a skull, a proper skull, we get 2 for 1. We get the neck connection and we get the faceplate connection. And second, if we connect the neck like this, it's very easy to draw a back view. We just change some of the details, or not even the details, just the overlaps, even if we have the same silhouette, and then now we have a back view. The pit of the neck is just one circle down. Just take the circle, drop it down. Okay, so let's technically, if we draw the front, if we know how to draw the front of the head, we know how to draw the back of the head. We just reverse some of the measurements. because the silhouette doesn't really change. Let me check the time. Sure. So if we take from the bottom of the chin and from the pit of the neck, we cut that in half. This gives us the 7th vertebrae in the back. Wait, can you hear me? Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, guys. Oh no, sorry. I have I didn't know this program was blocked in China, so I have a VPN running, and my computer died like a few weeks ago, so I haven't installed all my VPNs. I usually have like 3 VPNs going at once, just so as a failsafe. So yeah, I don't know what gets banned. I don't know who decides, but it's like random. So anyway, we find the bottom of the chin to the pit of the neck. We cut that in half. It gives us the pit of the neck. And then what you're gonna do is to get to the end of the collarbone, I always, it's basically one circle out. You take this circle, so I'm just zooming out so I can see the whole image, and it's just one circle out like this. Yes, I know, boobies, right? Yes. So we just pull that out, and that's just to the end of the collarbone. Does that make sense? All right. So now what we're going to do is before we go ahead and draw down to the pelvis, we're going to draw our center line. And to get to the bottom of the pelvis, we're going to use the 2 circles as a unit of measurement. And we're going to drop that 2 times. So one, right? Well, 3 times, 2, and then 3. I like this measurement a lot more because it's faster, and it's easier to draw. I'd rather be measuring 3 things instead of 4, which is faster. You can measure 4 heads down. It should be the same. 2, 3, 4. It's a little bit long, so measuring again. 1, 2, should be here. 4. That's correct. We're going to draw the shoulder. The shoulder will start higher than the 7th vertebrae. And from here, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a bow tie shape. Just make sure that the lines will converge somewhere. From the end of the shoulders, we'll draw down at an angle. This has its origins in the Riley method. The Riley method has you go all the way down to the crotch, but I don't like that one. It doesn't help with bodies or body types. It's too hard to, and it always makes you have like really slim waists, so I don't like that one. It creates unrealistic beauty standards. Usually it's just hard to get likeness for when you do it that way. That's why I do it like this. The bottom part of the waist will go up and it'll converge somewhere over the top of the head, or just converge somewhere up here. So that's how we get that bow tie shape. Does that make sense? Cool. So up on everything we've drawn till now, the head and the shoulder, that's part 1. So now we're working on the torso, which is part 2. When we drop to that first unit that we dropped, this one and this, hit this point, this is the 10th rib. And we can treat that like the corner of a box, which is kind of interesting because when you start drawing the neck, immediately, when you find this angle, you already find the angle of your rib cage. The reason is because, well, the rib cage doesn't bend, right? Solid object. So let's draw it here. Let's kill two birds with one stone real quick. So I got to explain a twist as well. It just makes it easier when we start moving it to form later. Hmm? Yes, this seventh vertebrae, the one that sticks out the most. No problem. So we have our center line. So like I said, if we figure out this angle at the top of the rib cage of our first rib, we already know the bottom of the rib cage as well, because they are a box. This is the 10th rib. We'll never have this going on. It means your rib cage is somewhat skewed. Yes, the 10th rib is halfway down the bow tie. And one more measurement we need to point out is from the pit of the neck to the bottom, the 10th rib, we cut that in half. It gives us the bottom of the sternum. We need to add a little bit more, but generally that's where we plot it. And this is an important measurement because if we need to add a twist, we need to twist after the sternum because this is solid. This is a solid bone. And here's our pelvis. All right, okay. Interweb, always a problem. So when we twist, we need to twist after that sternum. Does that make sense? Otherwise, you risk breaking the rib cage. All right. So now that we have the 10th rib, we're going to take from the 10th rib to the bottom of the pelvis, and we're going to cut that in half. This will give us our iliac crest. Drop the half a little bit. There you go. That's more half. So there's our iliac crest. Take that measurement, cut it in half again. This will give us our stomach insertion. Or also the pubic triangle. This is where we'll be attaching our legs. If we take from that point here and the iliac crest, we break this into thirds. This is what's going to help us build our Barbie doll shape or G.I. Joe shape that will help us to insert the legs in. And now that we have the bow tie shape, just remember this. After you draw the head and we get the bow tie, draw a fish. That makes sense? So let me explain something here that might get a little bit confusing, because one of the things that, when we look at a figure standing like this, it took me a while to figure out was this distance looks very long. And once I started studying the bones a little bit more and understanding how the figure is actually standing, it made sense why this looks long. The reason why this looks long is because we're not drawing a figure. A person does not stand like this, where their body is just straight up and down, and then their legs are like this. Right? This doesn't happen. The figure is constantly counterbalancing. So the neck will go back, the rib cage will come forward. The pelvis will head back like this. So this front portion will look longer. Does that make sense? So let me quickly draw, check the time. Very cool. I got to do this really fast. So I'll draw the skeleton on the right side. So you can see when I start drawing the skeleton, it looks correct. Because when you draw the skeleton, you're drawing the other side as well. All right, I'm going to try to just draw the skeleton, or the base skeleton, and then, yeah, we can take our 5-minute break. So there's our spine. There's our rib cage. We have 2 false ribs, the 11th and the 12th. This bottom portion here will have the 6th and 7th connecting to it. 10th rib attaches from somewhere up here. There's the 10th. There's the 12th. There's the spine. Here's the iliac crest. There's our tailbone. One, two, three, 4, 5. Okay. We have the tailbone. This is on the back. The halfway point here, we have our pelvis. Has this nice butterfly shape. Have the little holes for the muscles. You don't need to know it, these parts, because you will never see it unless you're drawing a skeleton. So as you can see here, this distance gets much shorter once we start drawing the back plane as well. There's the spikes. Just drawing this so that the proportions make a little bit more sense. Any questions? All right, cool. So we can take our 5-minute break, and then when we come back, we'll draw the arms, the legs, and then we'll draw the head and a side and a three-quarter, and then we'll do a homework demo. All right, so let's take a 5-minute break. Let's go. Sure. Wait, how do we know where the 10th rib is? Yeah, because it's the 10th rib. We have 12 ribs. We're marking off the 10th. Yeah. Yes. If we take from the pit of the neck, bottom of the pelvis, cut that in half, that gives us our 10th rib. Right, no problem. In 5. Yeah. So let's see. Get a Let's quickly get a soda. Hey, Fluffy, you need to go out? Fluffy. Okay. Let's call it. No. Oh, thank you. What's it called? I buy a lot of knockoffs because I found out for some reason they're cooler than the official. Like I didn't know there there's a company that makes Optimus Prime, the Beast Wars version, but they colored him in they colored him in Ava colors, which I was like, wow. And it's China, so it's very easy to find these. And I found out in China, as an American consumer, the line version. That man, we overpay a lot in America, like for everything. Like my fiance found out when she looked at my iPad cover when it finally broke. And I told her how much it cost, and she laughed because it was like the official Apple iPad cover, so it was like $50. And she said, "What, $50? That's like, you know, that's way too expensive." And so she bought me a very fancy iPad cover from from Taobao, and it was $20 US, and they gave me the iPad cover, a cover for the cover, randomly some stickers, and then they gave me a Bluetooth keyboard and a Bluetooth mouse. I like when I got the package, I was like, "What did we buy?" She said, "Oh, it's just the cover. The rest of it is a gift." I was like, "What?" That's amazing. Yeah. So, and also found out that like Hasbro and um, these companies, like when they sell to like Europe, they mark up the cost. It's just crazy for like someone like a Starscream or something that I saw. It's like $300, and it's not a very good figure. The plastic is kind of cheap, and the knockoff is even better, and it costs like half that amount. So just like wondering like what's going on. Basically, I can say this: being in China, I've been spoiled in so many ways for online shopping. Like I can't do the American online shopping anymore. I'm like too spoiled. So I'll be like, "Where's my gift? I bought I don't know, like nail clippers. Where's my gift?" No, no, just anything. Yeah, like, okay, so I just said, yeah, like I don't know, like any figure or anything I order in China off Taobao, they always give me like a gift. So I'm like, if I buy on Amazon now, I'm just gonna be like, I'm just spoiled. See, like, where's my gift? Like, I bought like nail clippers. Where's my gift? Like, what gift? It's like when I buy it in China, they give me candy. I don't want it, but they give me candy. It makes me feel. No, this is just saying, like I'm finding out like how much stuff actually costs here. Like like because there's sites called like Pinduoduo. It's basically like the factories have their like their own like it's like Amazon, but it's for factories, and you can just buy like I directly from them. So there's things that are like 1 yuan, which is I don't know how much that is. That's like not even money in a way. it's it's not, and they'll still mail it to you for free. So I'm like, oh my god. So it's like the postage is free. So it's like, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's Singapore as well. Man, Singapore is so nice. I don't know. When I went to Singapore, I was like, wow, it's so clean here. That's what I thought. Anyway, we get what? Oh, it's not illegal. Is it illegal? I mean, when I went to Singapore, I saw a sign that was talking about that said like literally said like you'll be flogged if you. I forget what it was, and I was just looking at it. I was like, what? Yeah. I see. Okay, so it broke down a train. Well, explain this. Sorry, I know this is a little bit off topic, or this is way off topic. But when I was in Singapore, it said like no food, and it was like but like the penalty, there was like a huge penalty for if you have durian in the subway. I'm like, who would take durian in the subway anyway? But like, so I was like, is durian like unforgivable to have that? And also like, they were it smells. And the other thing I was wondering was like, I mean, it's not that bad, I don't think. But they had all this delicious food before you can get on the subway, and it's like ice cream, and you're not allowed to take it on the subway. I'm like, what? But it's ice cream. You're selling it on the, it's like, so it's like you can eat it here. I'm like, what? It's like, I don't know. I don't know, because they had to stand there and eat it, and I was like, all right. Anyway, yeah, it's just cool being in China because everything's like right there. And, Singapore, it's like a few hours. You go to Japan, it's like a few hours. I went to like, it was, I don't know. I just think it's wild. Go to Korea for a meeting and come back, and it's only like 2 hours. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. I went to I did a workshop at Pick One Studios, and got to be in Melbourne. Um, so it was nice. I don't know. Anyway, so we have stage one, which is the head and neck. We have stage two, which is the torso. Now we can attach the legs. When it comes to where we have more leeway, like where you can actually screw up a little bit and it works to our advantage, is the limbs. The body always needs to stay roughly correct, but if we make the legs a little bit longer and the arms a little bit longer, it makes a person look a little bit more, like heroic. So that's where we want to have our mistakes work to our advantage. The only time drawing something shorter works to our advantage is, let's say you're drawing, if someone's sitting straight up and down, like with their back straight, and we just draw the legs, we just add it in, like the knees will be here. That works fine. But if we were to draw the legs, I mean the body even shorter, what'll happen is it'll make it feel like the person's hunched over a little bit more. So that's where it works to our advantage. Or if we decide to make the legs shorter, it's for when we foreshorten, so that it feels like the leg is even more foreshortened, like the length of the leg, I mean. So that's when it works to our advantage. But for the most part, it's a better idea to make the limbs a little bit longer. But the generic measurement is from this halfway point here, where the stomach insertion is, we measure 2 heads down. That should take us to the break of the leg. Two heads, so 1, 2, so somewhere here. We take that measurement and we drop it another unit, and that gives us the ankle. And even when I draw Eric, I generally draw the legs a little bit longer. Just find it a little bit more appealing. And to draw the feet, we just add on a little bit more. There's 2 ways you can think of the leg. You can think of the leg as fingers, or you can think of the leg as like a fish, where this is the mouth biting on, and this is the tail. The other way is when we draw legs, we can just think of them as fingers. And we just add on feet. Does that make sense? Just quick shorthands for things. Another thing another kind of quick note when you're drawing that you can kind of mark off is drawing the placement of the knee. And you can just draw an oval or a circle just as a placeholder. The reason is because your foot will face the same direction as your knee generally. So as we're drawing, if we just make a note of this, so if like the leg is slightly facing off to the left or something, it's in a very, very simple drawing. We can mark that off by just drawing a little oval or something. Lets us know, hey, the leg is facing this way. I do a lot of note taking when I need to draw fast. Kind of how I think about sketching. If you don't have time to draw, details, then what I'll do is I'll make little notes like this so I can go in and I can just add all that other stuff in later. Okay, it's part 3. And then the next thing is we're going to draw the arms. And one of the things I do for the arms is just a shorthand. I take half of the sternum and I draw a giant humerus on the inside. Humerus is basically your arm bone. So here's the clavicle, or your collarbone. This is where it ends. We need to add a little bit more for the acromion process. Here's your humerus. And this is your scapula coming from the back, angling to the front. The reason why I like to draw a big humerus there, or just kind of a ball, it just helps me to, or envision a ball there. It helps me to flow the arms into the shoulders a little bit more naturally when I draw them. You have the coracoid process here, so where some muscles connect. The break in the humerus, or the arm, will come roughly a little bit after the 10th rib. I just eyeball this. So anyway, we have our big humerus. So this is basically this, just a bigger version. Flow out the arm. So see, it just makes it easier. Bring the arms in just a little bit, have it out too far. Break. And usually what I'll do is to find the end of the hand. Most of the time you can just eyeball this, because once you draw the full figure, I don't know, it's easier to eyeball. The middle finger is a little bit shorter than the one head that we draw here. That'll be the length of the full arm. To find a break in the wrist, I just take this measurement and I just drop it down another unit. To find the end of the middle knuckle, I just cut this in half from the wrist, the middle finger. Cut that in half. Break this into, sorry, we'll go into this later. Right now, I just want you to treat the hands like a mitten. Give you more specific measurements and an easier way to draw hands. Hands look a little bit small. By the way, you'll notice if you're watching on the video, that I do this a lot when I draw. Because in traditional media, do you guys know who Charlie Wen is? No? Charlie Wen is the designer of Kratos from God of War. I know Wen, W-E-N. So when I was, yeah, so when I went to, someone knows it? Okay, cool. So when I was at Art Center, there used to be, well, there's workshop every day at Art Center, but there was one workshop in particular that was like, that it was like, you have to get there early so you can find a seat. It was Kevin's workshop. It was on Saturday, and it was just packed. And Charlie would come every now and then, and he would draw. And when I asked him for advice, he looked at my drawing and he said, "Oh yeah, you know what you should do? You should lean back a little bit more when you draw, because it lets you see the full image. Let you see what you're actually drawing. Because when you draw, you get very close to the paper because you're involved. So the closer you get, the more you stop seeing the bigger picture. So after you draw for a little bit, like you draw the head and the neck and the torso, just lean back and look at it." And it was like mind blown. Very simple, so simple, but he does that a lot. You'll notice a lot of other concept artists, after they draw, they'll do this same thing. It's just I have a habit of actually physically leaning back. And then the little bumps, you don't have to worry about that. You can add. Remember, you can always add that stuff in later. For homework, we're going to be drawing 20 standing figures. And I want you to time them for 10 minutes. One reason is because I want you to kind of also it's because when something is timed, it's more like it's easier to thinking like each drawing. Kind of puts you in a sink or swim kind of situation. I feel that pressure is necessary. Oh, it puts you in a puts you in kind of in a sink or swim situation. Can you hear me? Hello? I'm gonna try it again. Okay, is that better? Okay. How about now? Sunny, okay. But yeah, okay. The timing you're drawing will put you in a sink or swim kind of situation, which I think is kind of necessary. And we all have to learn how to kind of calm our mind. So I really want you guys to spend about 10 minutes on each one. And I don't care if you don't draw all the way down to the foot. Like I said, there's 1, section 2, and then section 3. I just want to make sure that I'm trying to help you to build good habits. So it's like there's no point in drawing all the way down, speeding up, and drawing all the way down to the feet when part 1 is not working. Because if it's not working, you have to go back and fix it later. And problems, a lot of drawing problems, they can be easily solved at the beginning. If we continue to just kind of render or continue to kind of move on, it just snowballs. I tell this to every class: never try to save your drawing by rendering. It's like the worst feeling ever. Yes, 20 10-minute figures, all standing, all front view. Yeah. Then we're gonna draw. Let me check the time. Oh crap! I'm slower than yesterday. All right, okay. So for homework, you gotta make the arms a little bit fatter. The hands are too small. But anyway, I'll do that after. But we're gonna have to draw a side and a quarter and do the homework demo. So a side view of the head. Everyone tell me how far I have to drop for the front of the face. Let's see here. Can you hear me? Is that better? Hello, can you hear me? All right, okay, cool. All right, so when we draw a side view, does anybody know how far we have to drop the line to get the front of the face? It's the same as a front view. Yes, the radius. So we just drop 1 radius down. That gives us the front of the face. To get the depth of the skull, we're going to extend the skull 1 radius out and then bring it in just a little bit. So it'd be like 0.9 or 0.8, somewhere here. Because the depth of the skull is deeper than the length of the face. And one thing we're going to do is after we do that, we're going to find our skull and we're going to draw this kind of avocado shape. Kind of helps us group the skull and the face, and kind of it conveys that growth pattern that we have. So we'll take the top of the head, bottom of the chin. We'll cut that in half. Give us our eye line. If we take the front of the face, back of the head, we cut this in half. This will give us our jawline. And remember, nothing on the figure is straight. There's always a slight angle. Our eye line lines up with the start of the ear. We can draw our ovoid. Just make sure the ear slightly overlaps the jaw. It's because the ear is slightly in front. If we take our finger right now and put it behind our jaw and we pull it back, we'll notice it goes behind the ear. Top of the head to the eye line. We break this into thirds. That's our mask shape. We can draw that front plane from before. We have that natural that comes from the inside of the ear. Gives us our front plane. We can draw a temporal ridge. What's up with the mic? It's frozen. Is it this? Okay. Let me see here. Did it draw an update? Yeah, okay. Let's see here. Is it this? We didn't have this issue with like Zoom. Yeah. Is it the? Should I just stop sharing and share again? Will it work? Okay. Share application. Share. Is it? Can you guys see my screen? Okay, cool. So what I did was I found the temporal ridge behind the ear. We can finish off our mask shape. And the tricky thing about drawing the skull is the peak of the skull is not in the center. It's slightly behind. I've been mostly eyeballing this, but I just pull it back. I mean, you can use the 1/3 method and just have it peak at 1/3. I usually have it somewhere in the middle. Sometimes I have it there. It doesn't really matter. The back third, however, I can use that to drop the neck. And what I'm going to do is we draw a circle because it's just easy to get the measurements of everything. The shape of the skull is actually not a circle. So what we need to do is, since the peak of the head is here, pull the peak back. And we need to rub, blend our shapes. Think of it like you're working with clay. We blend all our shapes. And you see how like it's a little bit awkward at the back of the neck. We get this weird kind of point here like this. We just add on some clay. Rub. And we blend our shapes. Does that make sense? Yeah. Well, that's what we're doing. Now, does anybody remember how to find the pit of the neck? Yes, one circle. So we'll just take one circle, drop it down. The neck will be somewhere in the center. And how we're going to find this, the width, is we're going to take the center of the eye over here, and we're going to drop a line. And it usually ends up cutting roughly about 1/2 of the jaw. This is going to help us later when we draw a three-quarter view as well. We take from the bottom of the chin to the pit of the neck. We cut that in half. We get our seventh vertebrae. And then underneath our chin, we have this bone, or in our skull, we have a bone. It's called the hyoid. It's a bone that floats. And once again, because we have that plane, we get a little Dorito chip underneath. Just an interesting fact, when people get choked, that's the bone that will probably get crushed. And, that's how usually, it's one of the ways that, people, when they find the dead body or the body, they can kind of determine the person was like really choked, because that's a really weak bone. It really floats. That gets crushed. And without it, we can't talk. Or we can't, I think it's like there's certain kinds of things with speech that we can't do if we don't have that bone. Right? So that's how we draw a side view. Does that make sense? Cool. Let's check the time. Okay, cool. So to draw a three-quarter view, we're going to draw the head twisting like this. So we can show you how we can take advantage of that center of the neck. We draw a circle. We'll have this person facing to the left. To find the center, we're going to take half a radius for a three-quarter view. And we're going to drop the center line. So how far should we drop for the chin? Yeah, one radius. Mark that off. To find the depth of the skull, we're going to take half a radius. Blend our shapes, draw that avocado. Find the top of the head, bottom of the chin. Cut that in half. Getting too close. Hit our eye line. This is just a nice coincidence. When we draw a three-quarter view, we can just drop the jawline from the side of the circle. Just kind of nice. Works out that way. Take the top of the head to the eye line, break that into thirds. Gives us our mask line. And go ahead and draw the front plane. It's on this side. It's on the other side. Find the ears. Just draw ovoids. Side of the inside of the ear. Help us get the chin. And then now we found this point. Just find the point on the other side. We can just angle it in. Find our temporal ridge. And the peak of our skull will be somewhere back here. We're just eyeballing. remember to rub our shapes. Right here, we're going to rub. It's called the Dorito bone. I like that. But it's the hyoid. Hyoid. So there's our 3/4 view. Oh wait, we gotta finish off that mask shape. The face is in two parts. So we have the skull, which is this, and then we have the mask, which is this thing right here. This is kind of nice. When we draw the neck, because we drew the skull, no, they're both bone. The thing is, once you have basically here's our skull, we're attaching a mask. And there's the ear, and then we're attaching the Dorito chip on the bottom. That's how we're creating a face. Does that make sense? So to draw the neck, because we have the skull, it's very easy for us to flow out the back of the neck. Right? So there's the back of that neck. And I don't know if you guys remember the name of the ninja in Metal Gear. That's who we're drawing. Think of it that way. So the center of the eye, this will give us the center of the neck. So we drop one circle for the pit of the neck. The neck will be somewhere here. Remember, this is not the other side of the neck. This is the center of the neck. And to find the other side of the neck, what we're going to do is, this is the circle we drew. We're going to finish off the circle we drew in the back. Hello, Photoshop. Okay, cool. So we're drawing this circle. And we're going to pull that to get the other side of the neck. Does that make sense? And this is kind of cool because guess what? I just moved the ears here. I just drew a back view of the person in a 3/4. Yeah, so it's worth the time to do all this. And then so there's the other side of the neck. We're saying the neck is twisting. So when we draw our first rib, we can have it facing this way. Bottom of the chin to the neck, we cut that in half. And draw our shoulders. We can pull the I don't know muscle or the trapezius back. And then because we have this point, we can add the Dorito chip very easily. No, I'm not going to use Spider-Man colors. There's our Dorito chip underneath. One reason why I like using this kind of shape for the neck is because if we use a cylinder to connect the neck, cylinders don't give me any kind of direction. Even if I draw a center line, it's not so obvious. But this kind of triangle shape, I like it because it gives me direction. Like if I'm drawing a twisting neck, lets me know this part is facing this direction. This part is facing this direction. Right? And it also gives me the plane of a rib cage. That's why I like that shape. It's more effective. Does that make sense? Cool. So before I post this this demo, I'm just gonna enlarge the hands a little bit, like width-wise. It's a little bit short. Don't have a lot of time. I want to get to the homework demo. So let's group this. For the homework, this is Barry. So remember, we're doing 10 standing poses, so the arms are not as important. I really think, if we're, drawing a standing pose, we need to have some priorities. Like let's say it's a 2-minute pose. Is it more important to get the arms when we're drawing a standing pose, or is it more important to get the weight shift of the legs? Yes, no, legs or arms? Legs, yes. Yeah. So what I'm going to do for this pose is we're going to draw Eric. Remember, you're not drawing the model. You're using the model to pose the Eric. And it's okay if your Eric is a little bit influenced by the model. That just kind of happens. Like even when we're drawing Eric, if you're drawing a heavy set person, the Eric tends to get a little bit thicker. When you're drawing a woman or a female, the Eric tends to get a little bit more lean or a little bit more curvy. That just kind of happens. That's okay. But for this pose, remember, we're just drawing Eric, and I'm just going to make up the arms. So before we start, we need to figure out what's going on, like what's happening. So let's start with the head. What's the view? It's a side view. Heck. Oh, I know what's going on. Okay. Okay. Good. So we have a side of the head. Body is 3/4. And then the leg over here, it seems like it's carrying more weight. So one thing that you can do very quickly, like if when you're drawing, someone at a cafe or something, just draw little notes like this. And I would say the head is slightly tilting. It's a side view. It's slightly like this. Doesn't have to be a really nice drawing, just quick notes for yourself. So you can, just draw stuff like this, like a little stick man, whatever it is. And there's a twist in the body. I do this all the time. Don't have enough time to draw somebody who's moving. You can just make little notes. Does that make sense? Cool. And then you can just draw looking at your notes. All right. So let's start with our head. Start with our circle. draw a little bit bigger. One of the interesting things about this model's name is Barry. When I draw him, because I'm always comparing him with Eric, there's a lot of views where I need to make Eric's face longer. And when Barry looks up, I keep, when I use Eric's head and I just draw a regular front view, like without cutting the chin, it usually matches more of Barry. And Barry's neck is longer than Eric. Always comparing. It's kind of cool to start seeing what's different. So it's a side view, one radius out. So it's like 0.8, 0.9, somewhere here. Actually, let's make it right there. Kind of amazing. I had a Chinese student that literally measured it out every time. I think I was like, you don't have to do it like that. He literally, like, I thought that was crazy. It's like, no, you don't need to do it like that. You can just eyeball it. It's okay. I don't know. It's my first time seeing that type of dedication. So every side view had a little grid on it. And I was like, wow, no, you don't need to do that. Well, go. I don't think it's gonna go far. I mean, I'm sure he'll go far, but I told him like, yeah, you don't need to be so literal about stuff, because one of the things I learned from teaching in China, like it's crazy. Like when I came to China, I was not trying to start my own school and teach. I really came to China for a job opportunity, which turned out to be like they were criminals, and I originally came here because of my fiance. This whole thing just kind of happened. A publisher found me on, because my girlfriend started a girlfriend at the time. She started a Weibo page for me, and then it turned out there are people who already knew who I was. I was kind of lucky. And then there was a publisher who reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to write a book?" And then it just kind of snowballed from there. But yeah, but one of the things I did learn from teaching here is that I had to explain it to, because I've worked with some art directors here that are from the US, and I've worked with some of the US companies here. And I help them find, especially with our school, we try to help them get employment, through some of these companies. And one of the things that is very different is, like, this is how I explained it. It's like, well, you have to understand, I mean, judging, if you go to a US like art class, like a kindergarten art class or something, or just where let's say you get to play with clay. In an American art class, they'll say, all right, here's some clay, and maybe over the weekend, or you go outside and you make something, and then when you finish making something, you come in and you tell us why you made it. Why did you make this? What made you want to make it, right? In a Chinese class, they will get a mug. They'll give you clay, and then they'll get a mug, and then they'll put it in the center. So you copy this mug, and whoever can copy it exactly is like the best. That's two different ways of thinking. So it's hugely different. So like the art director I was talking to, I was just kind of helping him because he was working on a movie that was supposed to release at Spring Festival. And he said one of the things that the designer did not think about is this is a live action movie. And the character has a giant sword. And he needs to pull it from his back like this. But since it's a giant sword, and it's a live action movie, it's not possible. Because he's riding a horse and he's carrying this giant sword. Also, he's also saying it just looked a little bit awkward, but they didn't work that stuff out like in the design. And then like the storyboards that he showed me, it was like he was asking the artist, like, why did you make the rain push him? Because it's like a very sad scene, and the wind was pushing him ahead and everything. And when I looked at it, I thought, hey, he's like, it's like an easygoing scene. It's like, no, it's supposed to be a sad scene. And so I was like, well, he just thought it looked cool. And it's like, well, that's not enough. It's like there has to be a reason why. If we have a scene and the guy is sad, and everything is against him, then why would the wind be pushing him forward? The wind should be pushing against him. Even maybe the rain is falling at an angle, so it hits him. Everything should be against him. So, just as an image itself, maybe he's the only thing going this way. Everything in the image is coming at him. It should be like that, if that's what you're trying to convey very quickly. But here, it was like everything was just opposite. It was a nice image, but, we're just like helping him along. So, I was just telling him, it's very different. So, like, you just have to bear with that, or just keep that in mind. Anyway, so we have a side view, and it's not a perfect side view. It's made slightly tilted over. So I find the eye line, treat it like a cylinder. I find the ear, draw an ovoid. Take the top of the head to the eye line, break this into thirds, bring this over. We have our mask shape. And I also want my mask shape to, round over like this. I can then start drawing the front plane of the face. Use the inside of the ear, hold that nice angle. Since it's the head is leaning over, I can also pull the jawline over. Or take your time, don't rush. Finish off my skull shape. I mean, technically, if we take notes, even after 10 minutes, we should be able to continue to draw. I mean, that's kind of, eventually I would like for all of you to get to that level where you would just draw. And then even if you don't have the reference anymore, you can keep drawing. Okay, so he's leaning forward. Yeah, one day. That's what we all want to kind of aim for. We have the gesture of his neck. Good. We got the 3/4 view. So let's drop one circle down. Anybody remember his name? I forgot to look it up. The ninja guy. Is it Fox Die? Fox something? Foxtrot? I forget. Wait, I think Foxtrot is a dance. No, not Raiden. No, the ninja guy. Add our Dorito chip underneath. Nice, Donatello, yes. So we're gonna find the other side of the neck because what's it called? We're drawing a 3/4 view, so we finish off this circle. There's the other side of the neck. There, twist. The right side of the shoulder is higher, so let's mark that off. Get the gesture of the body. Great fox. Great fox. Yes, I was way off. Fox die. Yeah. Okay. Draw his, we can just draw a mask shape here, or a shower cap shape. Just so that we finish off that head. We can draw our book. We can draw the shoulders. Draw our bow tie shape, but first let's measure out the proportions. So 2 circles down. That's 1, 2. Come on. 3. Okay, so the left hip is higher, so let's mark that off. Draw our bow tie shape. It's kind of a combination fish bow tie. Cut in this way, helping me to fix my my center line as well. So once I draw this, if there's anything that I need to fix, I'll just fix it right now. Drawing is done in passes generally for us mortals. If you're Kim Jong-gi, it doesn't matter. You can draw a fingertip and then you can just start drawing. But for us mortals, we have to do it in passes. Hope you guys know who Kim Jong-gi is, or do you know? Yeah. So it's different. Like generally throughout history, there is one guy that, one artist that I think is like the almost perfect artist and no one really knows him. His name is Fortunino Matanya. Fortunino Matanya. The reason why I bring him up is because he's like Kim Jong-gi, like if Kim Jong-gi is a god. That's what I think. Because Fortunino Matanya, when I first saw one of his images, actually I can show you one real quick, sorry. He's just so damn good. Yeah, and it's pen and ink. Pen and ink washes. And another crazy thing is he makes his own props. He goes to the location of these, where the soldiers were. And when I first saw these images a long time ago, I thought, hey, this is like World War I. You can't take pictures like this, especially like this one. Sorry, it's like I bought 3 of his books. That's the same one. So one of them just is for keeping nice and safe. One of them is just a special edition, and one of them is for me to just mess up, like just look through it all the time. But the thing is, like I said, Fortunino Matanya, he created his own props. Like he made props. He also would talk to soldiers from the battlefield, and he would give them like matchsticks and say, "Hey, where were you?" And where were you? And then he would go there and sketch there. And another thing is that makes Fortunino Matanya, I think, amazing is that even when he draws a mass of people doing stuff, I'm trying to find that image. I don't think I can find it. Sorry. There's always like a story being told. And even when he draws like a ton of people, the composition is always really good. Like he has a good sense of value. And so there is a process drawing that he has, but it really looks like, I don't know if you've seen that. I think we've all seen it where it's like, draw the circle and then now paint the rest of the owl. It really looks like that. Like the first picture is just like a chair. And then the second one, there's like a human. The next one, the background's all done. but yeah, like his ability to tell story is amazing. I mean, because like I said, he can draw masses of people. And there's one in particular where you see these soldiers. It's like their last stand, and you can see the soldiers in the foreground. They're all like, some of them are scared, and they're like huddled over, and there's other soldiers firing, and in the background you can see a bunch of soldiers coming down a hill. So they're doomed. But the thing that makes that image like extra powerful, where you're like, oh man, this is over, is in the far right corner you can see a little German grenade coming into the foxhole, or the little trench. So these soldiers, they're gonna die. That's a lot of, I don't know. I have no idea how to do stuff like that. It would take me, I think, several lifetimes to get good like that. But anyway, decided you guys check out Fortunino Matania. Yeah. Yeah, when you draw feet, it mostly has to do with weight distribution and stuff. We'll go over that. So, all right. So right now I'm just fixing my center lines, making sure my center lines are in the center. I can see the rib cage, or the bottom of the rib cage, is like this. So I'll make a note of that. So when I cut this in half, I'm just making note of the front plane. And the hip is in this angle. Does that make sense? I'm not drawing a box. I'm just kind of drawing a front plane. Anytime I need to make this a box, I just pull the line down, and I can easily turn this into, start creating forms. Okay. I'll take the center line here, and then I'll cut this in half to find my crotch, or the pubic triangle, and the stomach insertion. So in 10 minutes, if this is as far as you can get, that's fine. Like I said, I'd rather you guys draw and have everything working than just drawing all the way down to the legs and just tons of problems. So we can start drawing the Barbie doll shape, or the G.I. Joe shape, whichever one. Insert the leg here. You need to, no, actually, no, it should be fine. That was gonna have to. You can keep going on if you want, but yeah, it's mainly to get you used to being timed. I pulled the leg out too much. Just take your time. What I like about drawing with gesture, like these simple lines, is that if I screw up, I'm just moving one or two lines. So if I drew a leg at this angle, then I find out, oh, oops, it's at this angle. I'm just moving two lines. One, two, so somewhere here. There's the other side of the leg. One, two. It's the ankle. Does that make sense? So the leg here that's closest to us is a little bit long. Just fixing that. There's the waist. butt. Find that shin bone. Been exaggerated enough or angle enough. I didn't notice that Barry has a pedicure on just one on this big toe. So when I draw the other side of the leg, I still want to figure out the average width. So I'm just going to pretend I can see the other side. So this is his the center line of his butt. So the other side of the leg should be somewhere here, like this. You can draw the feet. Yes. I think for this week I sent it to Jasmine, and she'll upload it for right now. And I think when I get status change or something in collab, then I can start uploading it myself. Oh, this picture should be in the well, anyway, I sent it out yesterday. I can just add. Okay, so erase all of this. So I know what's in front of what. Remember to keep your drawings clean. If you're wondering how you attach legs, or just in case you see a little bit of the side of the body or something when you're drawing Eric, basically just thinking about it more like, here's the crotch, there's the stomach insertion, and we're just kind of throwing in a ball here. And then we're just attaching legs. That's the ball on the other side. We might see a little bit of the butt. Gluteus. Yes. It's a little shorter. That's all it really is.
Hey, Brian. I was gonna ask actually how you kind of like integrate like your visual memory with like appealing shapes when you kind of are studying like certain anatomy landmarks and stuff, like you are now.
So sorry, one more time.
Like, how do you kind of collect a visual memory and also kind of tie in like appealing shapes at the same time?
Part of it is, well, a lot of times we can find things that are already working. You know, like the shape's already appealing. There's like toys, there's other designs. So I make a mental note of that. The other stuff is, most of the time I experiment a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of memorizing shapes, I just have analogies, or, you know, like you'll notice I say, oh, this looks like a fish, this looks like this looks like that.
Yeah.
It's a great way to just kind of remember stuff. I see, I know why this was bothering me the whole time. Body's a little long, should be like here. Figured that out by doing this, by the way.
I see.
Just reading back. And I spend a lot of time, on all my drawings. The more I need to render, the more detailed it gets, the more time I spend on here. Because if it already looks good as a simple lay-in with, I call it basic shapes, then I'm off to a good start. If I'm already screwing up and, like, oh, this area looks weird, or, then I know that no matter what I do, it's not going to get any better until I just go back and fix the original problem.
Yeah. It's like you can leave sketches kind of unfinished as long as you don't take them further. So you have to be careful if you want to make it look good.
Yeah, by the way, that's another thing. So we have the figure standing. So now I'm just going to make up the arms part. So, but anyway, we don't need Barry anymore. But so in the US, one of the things that, I'm teaching more of, because I think it's needed more, is I'm teaching more of how to finish a drawing. Because I think long poses are, well, a lot of people don't like doing them because they're a little bit boring, I guess, in a way. And also, I think the number one reason why people don't like long poses, and I was like this for a long time, is because long poses, there's nowhere to hide. It really calls you out. If you don't know how to draw hands in a long pose, you'll find out. It'll just be painful. You don't know how to draw a face, long pose, you'll learn very quickly that you don't know how to draw a face, or that we don't know how to draw a face. It's very easy. So people don't like facing that. The other thing is, when we do a lot of quick poses, it gives us an excuse to not finish the drawing, because we can easily justify and say, oh, it's a quick pose. It's a quick pose, which is also really bad.
Yeah.
So my solution is you need both. So I think right now in a lot of US classes, it's predominantly quick poses, and not enough longer poses, which is what I got with like Mark, and learning edges and stuff like that. So I'm trying to find a nice balance. But for all of you, I would recommend doing quick poses and long poses. Quick poses, they help you to practice your decision-making skills and your design skills. And it allows you to try a lot of different things. Poses helps you to see more. Long poses will help you to see more, and also give you an opportunity to develop a lot of your shorthands that are yours. That's a misconception. Go ahead. No, I mean like 8-hour poses, and I mean like a full drawing, fully rendered, like a really long drawing. Because I mean, if you're going to be a storyboard artist or animator, I think you don't have to do that, but it definitely is a skill set that will only help you, and it'll give you more opportunities later down the road. Like if you want to, basically that's what I like about Fortunino Matanya, is that you need me to render like this, I can do it. He already knows how to take it all the way too far. So like, you want me to render like an anime style? Very easy. You want me to render, or you mean draw something to look like like a Norman Rockwell type style where there's a little bit more realism? I can do that. But I think it just makes you a stronger artist in general. So knowing, like, you were asking about learning about elegant shapes and stuff like that, you will learn that very fast in a longer pose, because you have time to try stuff out. And a longer drawing, one of the requirements is, well, we need to finish the drawing. So I'm going to have this arm go back, by the way. Go behind his back. So it'll come this way. You guys ever draw arms that are bending more than 90 degrees? I'd recommend using this kind of shape. Kind of comes to a point. The reason why this is a good shorthand is because it takes into account that our humerus at the end comes out like this. And then we have our ulna, or our elbow. When it bends, it wraps around. Sorry, I'm going to bend this a little bit more. That bone it moves up like this. So what's going to happen is we get a slope. And when we bring the arm to a point, that's basically what we're doing with a simple shape. Does that make sense? Yeah. So there's the arm over here, and let's have this arm pulling forward. Let's have this arm coming up. Yeah, there's a lot of, you want to know something funny though about a lot of the really good concept artists in China that are Chinese? They're trained overseas. A lot of them, when I end up talking to them or I learn about their background, they've trained overseas. They trained at Art Center, or they trained, it's very different. Plus they have, you know, some schools here that are taught by, like, do you guys know Feng Zhu?
Of course, of course.
Yeah, he has a school in Beijing as well, and there's a lot of concept artists that I've met that have trained, you know, at other schools. So they're not, a lot of them are not getting it here. They're going overseas. Is like I said, it's just different. It's a difference in education. They're working on a lot of it right now. Plus, I've spoken at some concept art schools here, and I don't like their curriculum. Number one, it's because the drawings that they have on the wall, it's not theirs. I know the artist who did those drawings, and I'm like, hey, Anthony, did you ever do a demo for this so and so school? Like, no, I don't even know about it. Like, so they're, you know, yeah. So, and the first concept art school that I did a demo for here, they didn't want me to draw. They just want me to talk about, like, I worked on this project. I worked on this project. But then I just sat down and I drew for you know, for however many hours, because that's what I'm used to. You know, when I go to watch a demo or, you know, someone talk, I'm usually there to watch a demo. I'm not there just listen about their experiences. So I thought that was strange. And a lot of the students here, they're trained to be like, it's sad to say, but a lot of them are probably, their skill set is for render farming, which I really don't like. That's not a good job for any artist. No artist wants to live, you know, be doing render farm stuff. Render farming is like, let's say your skill set is basically just like rendering, using programs to, you they photo bash. There's a lot of photo bashing going on here. The like even in certain concept art, I mean, some video game companies, they have like their main concept artist, but he or she will not have enough time to render everything. You know what I mean? They have too much work. So what ends up happening is that artist will start the drawing or start the painting, and then it will go to somebody else and they'll just render it. Because in a way, a lot of concept art, like technically, a lot of concept art is not finished, because that's just the general nature of concept art. It's more, I feel like concept art is more to inspire. We don't know what this looks like. We need some ideas for this. Like the final look is not this, but they need somewhere to start. So a lot of times the drawings don't need to be like 100% finished, because they just need to, I need to do 10 character variations in a day. There's no way I could render everything, but I can figure like bigger stuff out. And then once they like the overall look, then we can go from there, and then we can slowly start refining more and more and more. So there are levels to this, but render farming is like the worst. So anyway, so I just made up the arms. That's the idea. The idea is make sure the legs are working. Stage 1, 2, and 3 are working. And then worry about the arms later. So all the poses, most of the poses in the packet, I think, when they're standing, they're usually I asked Barry for not to pose with him leaning on stuff, but every now and then he will. It's fine. So I want 20 of these. Just take it as far as you can in 10 minutes. If you want to take it further than 10 minutes, that's fine. But try to pretend like 10 minutes is your deadline, even if you're going to take it further. Just because it kind of forces you to really think about all the lines you're putting down. Does that make sense? Sorry, we went like 30 minutes over. So cool. One last thing I want to show you is that all of these ideas, they're not exclusive just for figure drawing. They're used in everything. Like, for example, if you learn how to draw a figure, you basically already know how to draw some animals. You just need to learn the different proportions of animals and how they're different. But that was like do you guys know Jonathan Quo or Qua? He teaches at CD. Yeah. So when I was talking with him, one of the things he mentioned to me was like, just kind of, I never thought of it this way, but I've drawn animals before and it wasn't that hard. I just had to learn how they move, and the placements are different. But then, he answered, or he was just saying that like it's weird because if you think about it, if you know how to draw a figure, and they ask, when someone asks you like, what animals do you study to draw, like anatomy wise, what animals should we study to draw, like dogs and other animals? And he has this general like learn to draw a horse, learn to draw like a cat, because most things are similar. But he said if you draw figures, you're drawing monkeys, or you're learning to draw like an ape. So you're learning an anatomy already. Like everything just gets repurposed. Dogs have biceps. We have biceps. They have latissimus muscle as well. They have dogs have lats as well. They have a scapula. We have a scapula. They have a cranium. They have the zygomatic arch. They have the jaw. It's the same thing. Does that make sense? Hopefully I can find that drawing for you real quick. It's in here, should be in Is it this? Sorry, I can't read Chinese, and this is the stuff that I had to save. Final English version book. I think it's drawing Eric's head. It's not here, but all right. Well, for example, here's this. Just for drawing different styles, I did draw animals so you could see it. But if we can understand that the face is these three parts, when you draw more cartoony, you just mess with those three parts. They still have it. We're still messing with the skull. And this is what I mean when we mess with the mask shape. These are different. But depending on the style, they all have a skull. They all have a mask shape that we can just kind of deform. Does that make sense? Yeah. Sorry. If I can just, sorry, maybe I'll show it to you guys next week if I can find it. Damn it. So, yeah, one last. Yeah. So, it's like stuff like this. Like here's the reference. You drew Eric, right? Oops. Reference, you drew Eric. You can turn Eric into a, because the reference is just Eric is just there to give you information. So cool. Any questions about homework? All right, cool. So thanks for hanging in there, guys. Sorry, I know we had a little bit of a technical issue, but yeah. So see you guys next week.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, have a good night.
See ya.
All right, see you.